On this episode, we review 2021 and we talk about our plans for 2022. Today is New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2021, and this is episode 422 of the Main Street Magic Podcast.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts, Main Street Magic's bringing it home for you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Main Street Magic. I am your host, Jeremy Stein, and I am wishing my lovely wife a very happy New Year.
Hey guys, and Happy New Year.
Make sure you check us out on the web at mainstmagic.com, as well as follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at mainstmagic. If you've not done so already, head out to Facebook and search for the Main Street Magic community and ask to join. Then if you hit that subscribe button, you're going to get brand new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. But if you want even more content, which includes in-park, resort, at-home live streams, discounts on Main Street Magic merchandise, a whole lot more, and a whole lot more to come in 2022, visit wonderlandcrew.com and check out our Patreon group. And then if you're getting ready to plan that 2022 or 2023 vacation at Disney, Universal, maybe looking to go on a cruise or pretty much travel anywhere else in the world, check out our incredible travel partner, Melissa Pilgrim, with Ears of Experience, and fill out a form for a free quote, and you can do that at msmears.com. Rhonda, what a year.
What a year.
When, you know, it's so funny because you just said we're going through some of the notes and stuff and backtracking, and you're like, Disney was open all of 2021, right? And I'm like, wait, what year is this? Like,
yeah,
I feel like 2020 and 2021 is just one year.
Yeah.
It almost feels like, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But
I was thinking it was this past year that we drove when it was closed.
Oh, I know.
But it was the year before
It was a
for our
complete
anniversary.
year before. That's been coming up on 2 years.
That's crazy.
It really is. Time has just been something, you know, the past 22 months. I feel like 21, 22 months. It's been very, very strange. But what we like to do each year is I go back and I go through touring plans because we have a subscription to touring plans, and I always enter every trip we go on in there. Mm-hmm. Usually. And, you know, and you can go ahead and I'll be honest, now I don't use all the features of touring plans, but I can't recommend them enough. Right. It's $14.99 for the year or something like that. Highly recommend, even if all you used it for is to track your trips and count down your trips, it's well worth it. Yeah. Of course, it does a whole lot more. Mm-hmm. So touringplans.com, download the Lines app. I really, really do recommend that. So I go back and I kind of put out a spreadsheet of our trips. Mm-hmm. And then it's so funny, I ended up adding several more that I had not put in touring plans because they were either day trips or they were something last minute.
Right.
But Rhonda, before we kind of go through some of them and our favorite moments, how many nights did we end up spending in Orlando this past year?
50
nights. That is a lot of nights.
It is.
I'd have to go back and see
365 days.
I'd have to go back and see actually I'd be interested to see what 2019 was, because of course 2020 was majorly disrupted by that type of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, 50 nights that we spent all over Orlando properties, including Disney World, Universal Studios and beyond. So that was 13%, actually 13.5% of the nights that we spent in Orlando and outside of our home in Orlando.
Wow.
How many total days did that equal, Rhonda?
76.
Yes, that's almost 21% of our days were spent in Orlando.
Wow.
And
that wasn't even counting. We did the beach house this past year in July, right? Yeah,
for 6 nights.
Okay. We
spent some time in Georgia. You know, so yeah, we are away from home probably more than we should be, but and I like numbers like this, and so we're not putting that out there for any other reason, just then to kind of go over what we did, where we were, because those 50 nights, those 76 days in Orlando produced 109 Main Street Magic episodes.
See, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And, you know, that is, again, the reason that we are down there as often as we are. Obviously, we love it. And that is a big, huge bonus.
Absolutely.
But we're very, very fortunate that we have that opportunity, being so close and that often, as we go a little bit through last year, there are times that we go down specifically just for a day or we go for a specific opening or launch of something.
Yep.
So that we can go ahead and share it with you guys because,
Absolutely.
Really at any given moment, somebody's trip could be coming up. So, for example, if you go back to October 20th, we drove down on the second day that Genie Plus Lightning Lane was available.
Right.
One, we were interested to see it, but anybody that was coming in that weekend, we just really wanted to have the opportunity to provide firsthand experience on what it was like.
Absolutely.
As opposed to saying, we'll wait till our next trip in 3 weeks.
Correct.
And then we'll tell people.
Right.
So we try to do a lot of things like that. If you look at some of the hotel counts, we stayed at, multiple hotels. Coronado 6 times, of course, is the one that we stayed at the most.
Yep.
Endless Summer over at Universal, combination of Dockside and Surfside Inn, we did 4 times.
Well, I think that's a great place because it does sleep 6. That is where we are potentially going on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
We are going to wake up after New Year's Eve. We go to bed around 1 o'clock. And then we'll wake up, I'd say 10, 11 o'clock. And
well, you say wake up. That's probably the time we try and leave. I'll be up at 7 at the latest, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
I hope to definitely sleep till 10 maybe.
Okay.
And then we plan on going that day. Down there, we have Express Pass after 4, and it's great because Kaylin can't go with her friend, so she's going to go spend the night with a friend, and Tina and Cassidy and Lacey and all of us are going to go, and that's going to accommodate all of us without having to get 2 separate rooms or anything. So
fantastic. New Year's Day, and we'll kind of talk, we'll get into what 2022 is going to look like for us because it's going to be different, I think. New Year's Day, that 2-bedroom they're considering at Dockside Inn, annual pass holder rate, tax, fees, everything, $145 a night.
Yep.
And it drops significantly the week following. So it's kind of a no-brainer just to be there. And it's one of the reasons we stayed there, several times this year.
Correct.
We also stayed in a Cars suite for the first time this year. Yes. And we'll talk about that as a memory. We did Art of Animation in the Little Mermaid suites for the first time in several years.
Yeah, and that was super nice.
It had been a couple years since that. We did Saratoga Springs. We had not stayed at in quite some time.
That was nice.
And we'd actually only stayed there before for one night.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I went there for our anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
We did Sapphire Falls for the very first time at Universal. Quickly became one of our favorite resorts in Orlando.
Yep.
We got to do Fort Wilderness on 2 very different occasions we can talk about. We did Cabana Bay a few times. We did the Home 2 suite.
Yeah, I really like that almost better than Town Place.
Yeah, and that's over at Flamingo Crossing.
Breakfast
is outstanding. Yep. I had a night that I stayed at Spring Hill Suites over near the Convention Center. We did the Embassy Suites for the
House of Mouse.
Yeah, House of Mouse Expo, which we really, really enjoyed and want to look at in the future.
Yep.
Holiday Inn at Disney Springs for our first time one night. So we really got to kind of see some additional hotels, resorts, and things like that.
Yep.
Before we talk a little bit more about 2022, what are some of your favorite moments of 2021 in this past year? Because I'll be honest, I put this spreadsheet together and we looked through it, together right before, and man, I feel like the luckiest people alive. Because the past 2 years have not been easy in any means for anyone, really.
Correct.
Including us.
Correct.
What you see and hear is very, very much our lives, but there's a lot of other stuff that goes on in the background, that could probably make an entirely separate podcast just based on life and living in a pandemic and being 2 independent, workers with, 2 teenage kids. And it has been a lot the past 2 years. And so I kind of like honestly putting this together because it made me so appreciative of what we were able to do in the past year, when I think there's a lot of moments that we felt like things stunk so much. You can look back and go, wow, we're very, very blessed. We're very fortunate. We are very, very lucky.
Yes.
And we're very lucky to have anybody who's listening. We're very lucky for the support and the community. All of our friends that we have made that are both some of now our best friends and some that are just acquaintances that we love to chat with back and forth, in social and online. So with all that mouthful being said, because I did want to put that out there, what were some of your favorite moments of 2021?
Oh, well, again, there's so many, like you said, but, definitely starting out, I would say, when we went to Art of Animation for Flower and Garden and we got to stay and we stayed in the Cars suite. Well, it sleeps so many and it was just the four of us.
That was an upgrade.
That was an upgrade. We had no idea. But because it was, Kat was like, hey, I can come down. And
so we told her, we're like, you're coming down.
Well, yeah. Well, we were joking and we were like, if we get a car suite, she's like, I could totally come down. And so it was just amazing that she got to. And I love that her awesome other half, Michael, was like, yeah, go. And, he worked and I just absolutely loved it. We had such a great time.
Oh, goodness.
You and Kayla. And I love those memories where, like one of the kids are involved, because they're just so far and few between. And unfortunately we'll, get more into that for, I guess, the future of 2022. But, I really, really loved that weekend for sure.
Yeah. It was funny because we were driving down on Friday. We're going to be there Friday to Sunday. And it was for the opening of Flower and Garden. So again, we specifically booked to be there when Flower and Garden, that first weekend, it was going to be open. And I was just looking at the room in the reservation, and I noticed that we didn't have a room assignment or anything, but I noticed that morning it said car suite. And there was no extra charges or anything because I was looking at the portfolio. And that's when we started texting, and we were like, Kat, like if we get there and it's a car suite, you're coming down because we have room. And she's like, I'll start looking at flights, like, let me see what would be available Saturday morning. Because by the time we could guarantee it, it would have been too late for her to come in Friday night.
And actually, that was the roughest and hardest part. Like, we had no idea until like
we were sitting
late.
we were sitting at Bar Riva.
Actually helped us out.
with our buddy Steve. And he was like, you know what, I'm just going to call, because that's not my thing.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm just going to call him. And he pretended to be me in the most part and was just like, hey, I'm just checking, it's after like 4:30 or so, haven't gotten a room assignment. And also I notice in my account, it says a car suite. Is that correct? And they're like, yes, it is. You've been upgraded. He's like, awesome. We'll head over that way soon. We got there to check in person and the room still wasn't available, but it was made available very quick. And in fact, it was a car suite. So like 6 p.m. we're like, Kat, hit the trigger, buy the flight. And she came down the next morning. And yes, we had a wonderful day, but that evening, you split. We were at Banana Cabana.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting outside there, two of us, Lacey, Kaylin, Kat, we were getting food, we were getting drinks, saw the wonderful JoJo there at Banana Cabana. And you and Lacey were like, we're tired, we're going to head back. And Kat and Kaylin and I were like, well, we're going to go over to Bar Riva, see our friends there. So we did that.
That's
then we ended the night sitting in the lobby at Bar Riva, just people watching and talking. And we met Darby, a wonderful cast member at Bar Riva, who gave us each a Disney pin. She went in the back and or reached out of her pocket. That's when we actually first met Ken, who made the espresso martinis at that little lobby coffee bar there. And it was just the most fun. And then we got back, you were still awake. And I remember us all just sitting in our room, just laughing and talking until who knows when. And again, it'll be one of my favorite overall evening memories as well. I know it would have only been made better if Michael had been there,
of course,
but it still was very, very great. What's something else? I'll tell you, getting a chance to go down. Well, first of all, we also ended up going down specifically for Michael's birthday in March. We went down specifically for Kat's birthday in May. We always have an absolutely wonderful time hanging out with them and meeting up with them. We're going to get a chance to do so again in a couple months here in February.
Yes.
going down for the Velocicoaster preview on May 2nd,
Yes.
the AP preview
Yep.
was one of those day trips.
It was a day trip.
That's just a flat out adventure. You know what I mean?
It was.
And we had some worries leading up to that adventure because if you remember, April 22nd, on our anniversary, we had arrived to Disney, and we were at Epcot. We met up with Danny and Sawyer, who also share the same anniversary as us.
Yep.
And that's when the emails and the social media stuff started hitting that there was a Velocicoaster preview.
That's right.
We didn't have our AP passes on us.
Nope.
My parents were at home watching the girls. I had to call my dad and go, hey, can you go in our closet in this little fanny pack? Can you read off Rhonda's? Because I consider you the main AP holder,
and
right?
And that's what we got, the email from me.
Right. So we registered you.
Yep.
Which I thought would register your party. I just didn't realize it does not.
Nope.
So a little bit later, I realized that. And I'm like, I got to register me. And I can't.
At all.
Full at all. Tried and tried and tried. I'm just done. So I'm like, all right, well, we're still going to go May 2nd. We'll see what we can do.
Mm-hmm. It's very anxiety driven.
Yeah. And we showed up at our time slot to the gate and spoke to a wonderful team member, explained everything that went on. She called a manager up who was like, listen, come back at this exact time. It was like 30 minutes or something. And is like, and we got you guys set. And then the manager walked us down to the entrance to say, hey, team members, these two are good to go, even though he doesn't technically have a time. And I will say that preview, and then later the soft opening, and then later the official opening of Velocicoaster was absolute perfection.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with Universal. And we have been very lucky. If you think of pretty much any Disney major opening or launch in the past 5 years, we were able to be there usually on day one or have a preview.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, this was really our first Universal launch. We weren't pass holders back when Hagrid's opened, but yeah, Universal absolutely just nailed it on the opening of Velocicoaster, and it's still running about as smooth as anything could.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
And then it was so funny, 5 days later, we were driving down for Mother's Day.
Yes.
When Velocicoaster soft opened.
Yes.
And we were going with Rob and Tina, and we all stopped and rode
it. We stopped there first. And then we were, after that, we were headed over to Town Place Suites to check in and then go to Disney for the couple of days.
Yeah, I think we did 2 days at Disney or something like that.
I think they got their 3 or 4 pass, and then they ended up going another time or something like that.
And we have a lot of yearly trip traditions. And
Yes.
Mother's Day is one of them.
Yes.
And we've done like 3 out of the last 4 or so, I feel like, with Rob and Tina.
Yeah.
And started a couple years ago, and that's something I look forward to every year. And what I love about the things like those types of holidays is they're guaranteed on like that Sunday. You know what I mean? Whereas like a Thanksgiving, a Halloween, a Christmas.
Yeah. You're not sure.
Even when you look at, hard dates like, I don't know, St. Patrick's Day, like some of those that have hard dates, they're different days of the week. Knowing it's a Sunday and you go Friday to Sunday for something like that is just, I love that.
Yeah. And one of the main reasons we started doing Mother's Day weekend is, one of I feel like the biggest questions is, a lot of people will say, when is the best time to go? When is the time where there's not a ton of people? And I have always felt like it's Mother's Day. Excuse me. And the reason why I say that is because depending on the age of children that you have, if they are littles, there's no way you can go to Disney and be like, all right, I'm going to have a spa day. Yeah. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you, husband, partner, other half, has to take care of the children.
I take some slight offense to that, though.
What do you mean? Why?
Well, I know that in majority that is true, but I also think we've gotten into a culture of
I agree.
Commercials and movies where bumbling dumb, dad can't do anything.
You are a very big part.
Unfortunately, I think often that can be true. And unfortunately, sometimes a dad may not be able to take the kids all day and handle them. And I understand. I mean, moms are moms. Like, they're awesome, and they really do usually take over. I think it's been hard for me because of you being a hairdresser.
And your role in our family.
We've always been 50-50 in the raising of the kids, but I know sometimes it skews differently. But I agree with you. I do think the consensus is that most moms potentially, and I would love to hear from listeners, are thinking, I don't want to go chase my children around Walt Disney World on air, quote unquote, my day, the one I get a year. You know what I mean?
So we have noticed.
So I do feel that, and crowds are usually much less.
It has gotten more busier. I will say that. But usually that is a fantastic weekend to go. We always have a great time. So yeah, that is my thoughts on that.
I'm going to rewind a little bit back to April because I feel like we glossed over our anniversary weekend, which we
were the Dappers.
Yeah, this was our
15.
Yeah, it was our 15th anniversary, but our 6th spending it at Walt Disney World because we started on our 10th anniversary when we actually camped in Hobo Camper at Fort Wilderness, and you almost broke your kneecap falling off a bike.
I still
you know what they say, like it's like riding a bike. Like
No.
you know what? It's not like
Not
riding
for
a
me.
bike. If you're a Rhonda, you might fall off of it and bust your knee and limp for the rest of your anniversary. So yeah, we rented points at Saratoga Springs. Hey everybody, Jeremy here, and as I was going through editing this episode, I realized I made a glaring mistake, mentioned it twice. We did not stay at Saratoga Springs for our anniversary, but instead, we rented points at Old Key West.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Not only did we get to experience our first Dapper Day, which was so much fun, and we did a Eric and Ariel theme, and we ate at Cinderella's Royal Table for dinner.
Yes, I forgot about that. Sorry.
And we did our anniversary actual dinner at Three Bridges.
Yes,
of course. But I remember, I think we came in on a Thursday for our anniversary. On Friday, I believe it was Friday morning, because Dapper Day was that Saturday at Magic Kingdom. We woke up Friday morning, and you rolled over and were like, do you want to build a lightsaber today? And I was like, what do you mean? And you're like, I want to go to Hollywood Studios. We were already booked there. You said, I want to go and see if we can go straight to, Savvy's workshop and get a reservation as a walk up for a lightsaber. And I'm like, and you're like, happy anniversary. It's like, yes. And we did that. And it was one of the coolest experiences ever, where's the lightsaber right now? It's sitting in my closet. It's going to go back out because we just took Christmas down so people can view it. It's not like I go running around, turning it on and stuff.
Sometimes the girls do.
They do. But honestly, as weird as it sounds, if after the experience they'd have been like, no, you don't get to keep the lightsaber. I know you just spent like $200 some, but it's ours. I would have been like, okay, well, that was still amazing. That same Velocicoaster soft opening weekend for Mother's Day, Saturday, we went to Animal Kingdom with Rob and Tina, and Aaron, our friend Aaron, starts messaging me and goes, word is 11:30, Lion King is soft opening before its scheduled date it was supposed to. And so we got a chance to go see the very first Festival of the Lion King that was back since the pandemic had started, which was just the coolest thing.
Yes.
And even though it was different, it was very emotional to see this show back.
Oh, yeah.
Like, again, I just remember sitting there honestly with tears in my eyes, like, this is coming back.
Yeah.
And I think we can, before we go to specific moments for us over 2021, seeing things come back.
Yeah.
Seeing
Absolutely.
restaurants reopen, seeing shows reopen.
Fireworks.
In March, every single resort will be open again. We're almost getting it back to 100% of reopening and things like that. And so that part, and we'll see if it stays that way.
Yeah,
we might have to scale back again. I don't know, but maybe that comes in our predictions of 2022. So, all right, go on with your next favorite memory of 2021. And we can narrow it down some because there's so many.
I know there are. I really, really do. I'm going to move on to actually Father's Day. We went camping at Fort Wilderness, but we rented the camper where we drove it. It was the
Cruise America.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you. And that was absolutely outstanding. And then my brother came and met us there. And it was just our family.
We got the site right next to them. Disney was incredible about that.
It was
your brother's
just
family.
So cool.
And then they headed out. We were staying until Monday, basically based on the return availability and the way that Cruise America works. And I'm so glad we did, because we had a wonderful time with your brother and his family. But then Father's Day morning, we all went to Boathouse and had brunch. Which was absolutely wonderful. We had such a good time. And then we came back and they headed out, and our very good friends Athena and David came and hung out at the campground that night. And we all rode the golf cart and we did the scavenger hunt. And I cooked dinner and made tacos and all. I've never been more nervous to cook a meal in my entire life, because of course Athena has opened and helped open and been a part of so many incredible restaurants at Walt Disney World, including, of course, Three Bridges, where we met her. And I'm like, I gotta cook for this lady now. I seriously thought about it for months.
You're funny.
Like, I was so stressed, and it turned out very well.
Yes,
it did. I did tacos and stuff like that. So it was such a blast. Oh, I loved that trip. And then I think as long as we're talking about Fort Wilderness, our most recent Thanksgiving trip, tent camping,
that was amazing,
with your entire family, is again a memory that we'll never forget. I don't know that we'll do it again. I think if it's up for you, we won't. But
not in a tent.
Yeah, not in a tent probably. But it was just another one of those
again.
that was absolutely incredible.
Yep.
Another one for me was the fireworks coming back.
Yeah.
And so we had never spent a July 4th, like an actual July 4th at Disney. We booked Coronado, and originally we'd actually booked it for the 2nd to the 4th, and we were going to come home on the 4th. And you were like,
"Why are we?
What are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Why are we coming home on the 4th?
Yep.
Let's make this happen." So we added a night.
Yep.
We get there and we see the most some of our wonderful cast members, like Annette, who's incredible, and she's like, "You got to upgrade." I'm like, "Okay, that's cool." And we ended up getting the 1-bedroom king suite in Ranchos. And it was the absolute best to be there for 3 nights. There was so much space for the kids.
Yeah, it was.
Again, we had a wonderful weekend at Coronado, but we went the second night of the reopening of fireworks of Happily Ever After.
Happily Ever After. Oh,
and it
boohooed.
Whew, it was incredible.
It was.
And the night before,
I'm so happy we weren't there the night before,
because
Tank didn't fly. And it was just, I was sad for our listeners, and I was a little sad, but then now hindsight, I was super happy because it was amazing.
It was so good. And then we had a nice relaxing July 4th, and you know, we kind of saw some fireworks over the trees at Coronado, but it was just so good. We got to do a lot of new things this year. You know, our first ever after hours, technically, with the change over to Boo Bash.
Yep.
You and I went for a weekend alone. Your parents came and watched the kids. We also did, for the first time ever, Citricoast dinner that weekend, which was unbelievable.
Yes.
We did Topolino's breakfast.
Yes. That
with
was
Tara
good.
and Rachel, which was so stinking good. Not only the food, but the company. We went back not long after, a week after, as Toledo was reopening.
Yep.
And we stayed for one night at Coronado because, again, I said, Rhonda, we'll drive down, we'll have dinner, we'll come home. And you're like, come on, man.
We're not doing that.
Let's see if there's a room available. And so we did stay the night. And I remember we all got kind of a little bit dressed up. You and the girls just looked beautiful in dresses and all. That's the trip. Lacey was cold, and they brought her a robe from one of the suites. And she sat there in this big white robe for dinner.
It was so
and
cute.
it was just, those are the moments that I think were just so incredible. I would say, why don't you share a little bit about one of our longer trips, September 8th to 12th.
Yeah, that was your,
we had a
considered
split
your
stay.
birthday.
Well, it was considered my birthday, and my present was having all of our friends there, like Jossie and Kat and Michael. Unfortunately, Nick was still not back home. We got to see Kiyomi. We got to see so many people during that week. We spent 2 nights at Animal Kingdom Lodge, 1 night at Coronado, and then a night at Cabana Bay.
Yep.
What types of things did we do on this trip that, again, were firsts for us. And we used to talk a lot about Disney firsts.
Yes.
And sometimes they're few and far between as we are lucky enough to do more things.
Yep.
But I do think it's something you want to always refocus your lens on and go, what's a first?
Yep. Well, one first was a fireworks cruise, which we highly recommend, and got to watch Happily Ever After on, what's that lake called?
Well, we left from Wilderness Lodge, so we got to go through not only like Seven Seas Lagoons and Bay Lake and back around and all that good stuff.
Yep. So that was so fun. And watching the Happily Ever After again was so good.
Yeah.
And then we went to Halloween Horror Nights. Well, your first ever. My second, I think. I know my brother and I went a really long time ago, but I can't remember if I went prior to that. But yeah, and it was a long weekend, but it was good and it was fun, and it didn't seem like when we were switching all those rooms, I don't think it seemed as bad. I'd prefer not to, but it was interesting.
Well, and we had to do what worked, basically. And then not long after that, would end off September and launch October with us getting to be there for the 50th anniversary opening.
Yep. And that was super fun.
And everything that came along with it. We actually went down a night early.
Mm-hmm.
That was one night that we stayed at home too. Did the rest of the weekend at Coronado, of course. And yeah, just being there for the 50th anniversary and everything that it entailed. And Remy and doing an AP preview there, which, we had actually done that prior, but going there for the opening of it because it was opening that weekend. Harmonious, Enchantment, merchandise and the craziestness that went around that. And being in the park, at Magic Kingdom on October 1st, 50 years to the day had such a wonderful energy. And we got to run into so many people and see so many awesome people. Like Shannon and her family, Lou, Mangello, Lynn Testa, always love seeing, just, I don't know. That was definitely one of those memories that will stick forever. Just being there.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like during 100%. This momentous occasion. Yeah. Because I hope we can be there for the 75th. We'll be dead by the 100th.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, probably, maybe we'd have to be 92. So hopefully we have my grandma's genes. You might be out of luck. I don't know.
I don't think I'll be out
I
of
might
luck.
still be okay. But then one of my favorites, again, was you and I going down to see Blue October.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had started like the Neil Patrick Harris Candlelight Processional. We had kind of started this tradition that got fully interrupted by COVID. Blue October had started doing the Food and Wine Festival. Mm-hmm. And we went 2 years in a row, decided no matter what day of the week they're playing, if you have to take off work, whatever, we will go. Of course, we missed them in 2020. They weren't doing it in 2021, but they were playing the House of Blues.
Yes.
And I remember seeing that and all, and I messaged our good friend Jody out in Colorado, who is a huge fan, and I was like, you should come.
And she's
like, I will.
And it was amazing.
And we just had the best night, and it was our first time back seeing live music in 2 years.
Yep. And that's when we stayed at the Holiday Inn at Disney Springs.
Yep.
And that was a nice little walk. It was a nice hotel.
Yeah. It was so much fun.
It was. We had a great time. Great time.
And then really those are the highlights, but the highlights are always seeing our friends. We do lots of trips, and we're going to see them here in 2 weeks, going with our friends Lucy and Caleb, that we met over seeing Captain Marvel in the same theater because we happen to live not far from each other. So always getting to see friends and down there, meeting new cast members. Just, again, in a lot of ways, I feel like you're experiencing things over again.
Yep.
Let's talk about 2022.
Okay.
And I'm going to get into that. We do have a couple questions from our listeners that'll probably cover some of these bases.
Okay.
First being our good friend Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, what are some goals that you guys would like to hit next year concerning the podcast? Or is there expansion outside of the podcast that you guys are thinking of doing? Do you have any sort of specific goals as far as the podcast goes? I know that you don't you'll ask me, you don't see the numbers. Like,
Right.
and often see some of, I guess, those types of analytics that go up or down sometimes. Do you have any specific goals, be it accomplishing, and it doesn't have to be only like analytic or number driven with podcast or adding things. It can be, what are some goals or things you want to do at Disney or Universal next year that of course will then attribute to the podcast? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I mean, I'd like to. I mean, my dream has always been your dream, to see where it can take us and what it can do for it. So, but I mean, if I feel like if I get into too much, then it'll just be getting into what, we'll be talking about here in a minute or two, but
I mean, mine is just continued growth of, not only the podcast, but the community.
Yeah.
The community and social media is something that spawns completely separate because, what I think is kind of neat is that if for some reason we said, you know what, we're done doing the podcast, that wouldn't mean we were done doing the community and being in the community and growing the community.
Right.
When you look at our friend Tammy, who has grown those magical guide groups to leaps and bounds,
right?
And they're incredible communities that are so informative and so great. That was all done without a podcast.
Yeah.
And so I would like to think
people would be upset though.
Well, of course, but I'm just saying, I like that the Main Street Magic community and the social media communities have become separate from the podcast.
Yeah.
The initial thought was, well, every single person that's in the community or follows on social would also listen to the podcast. And that's not true.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Because we've still, helped build with all of these wonderful people and friends and our admins and our team and all, an awesome community that can stand on its own.
Yeah.
And that part to me, I think, is really, really cool. As far as expansion outside of the podcast, I potentially have an expansion coming outside of Main Street Magic. It will still be Disney involved. Chatting with some friends. Yes. Chatting with some friends to potentially launch that in the new year. I don't want to say too much more until we've kind of narrowed it down and figured it out. Theme Park Shuffle with Logan and David will be going on its own feed separate from Main Street Magic here in January.
Wow.
For the 11th episode. And I have a lot of fun doing that with those guys. I just, that's one that we do for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to be able to keep doing it. That's all.
Right.
Like, I really don't care if one person listens or 1 million people listened. I have a blast sitting down with those guys.
Well, good.
Gary and I are in chats to bring back Across the Pond. It kind of fizzled out with everything going on, but we are in chats to bring that back in January as well. As far as you and I are concerned, we have talked a lot about potential expansion revolving around the Orlando area because of the fact that as Disney does get more expensive, families are coming to Orlando and maybe splitting time between Disney and other areas.
Right.
And so something we've always talked about that I would love to see come to a reality based on time and finance and such is exploring areas that are within a day trip of Disney or something like that.
Right.
And I'm certainly looking forward to learning more and more about Universal as we continue to go there more often.
Yep.
All right. Janelle asks, what are you hoping to see return to the parks this year that still hasn't come back yet? What are your top bucket list items for this year? And are you doing anything new this year that you haven't done before? Do you want to tackle the first one with what are you hoping to see return to the parks?
Characters.
Like straight up face to face meet and greets? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Characters.
I would like to see that.
I'd like to I want to hug Mickey again.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
I'm with that.
Yeah.
Hoop-de-doo review.
Yeah.
In spirit of Aloha.
Yes.
Hoop-de-doo review is my number one.
And isn't that supposed to?
There's no definitive word. People have said for months now that cast members were being called back. And but there's no official anything.
When it does, we're going.
Hey, prior to 3 days ago, I'd have put Typhoon Lagoon on this list. But guess what? It's opening this weekend. It is opening on Sunday, reopening. And we will be renewing our passes in 2 weeks. and we will be adding water parks so we can get back to them. I miss Typhoon Lagoon
Yep.
so very much.
Mm-hmm.
We really have enjoyed Volcano Bay, and I think it is an
I
outstanding
love it.
water park.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't have that feel. It's funny because Typhoon Lagoon to me has more of like a close knit feel that makes it not feel like a water park almost. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
It's a combination of the music, it's the sights, the sounds. There's nothing like walking up to that one little bar where the waves will actually kind of almost hit your feet while you're ordering a drink, or just lounging on the beach area, which I still think they should do a teen beach movie stage show right there on the beach by the wave pool. But yeah, I'm very, very excited for that to come back. What are top bucket list items that we don't have planned in stone? Like for me, would be staying at either Riviera, Beach Club, or Grand Flow, because they're the only three we haven't stayed at.
Okay.
Like that would be a bucket list item.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to continue to do restaurants and things we haven't done. But let's just dive in then. Are you doing anything new this year that you haven't done before?
Well, we're going on the cruise.
We are.
Let's see. New this year that we haven't done is only get Jeremy and I passes to go to Disney.
Well, but that says anything that you. Well, oh no, true. It is just anything new. I was thinking that you want to do.
No,
I don't want to do that, but that's what we're doing. The girls have decided themselves for us to not renew their passes for 2022 to Disney.
But they are fully renewed and ready for Universal for 2022, and they've got the Premier Pass as well. So we have all three parks.
And I think that actually falls into things that we're doing again, that like Universal. We're going to do a lot more Universal this year.
Yep.
Something else that I think is a huge change probably for 2022 is that we're most likely going to be staying at a lot more off-property hotels and resorts.
Yep.
And that becomes kind of one of those like I don't know, lose-win situations. It's a loss because we want to stay at Disney.
Correct.
But with increasing costs of resorts and not as many deals, we can't. We just flat out can't. And so having an opportunity to look at some of these small off-property hotels and resorts, it's a win because then we get to talk about them and hopefully make recommendations for people that are in a spot where they go, I'd love to go to Disney. We just can't afford to stay on property. What are some of our other options? Yeah. And so we hope to bring a lot of that to you. The cruise, the Disney Wish in September is going to be absolutely incredible. And I can't wait to do that. I just, Christmas will be our first ever Christmas
Jeremy
day.
already booked it.
2022 at Coronado Springs. So that is something new we are doing this year.
And we think we'll do Coronado. We're not sure.
Yeah, if we can find some sort of good DVC rental to be in the Epcot and Boardwalk area, we will make a switch. But I'm okay doing Coronado, of course.
Of course.
But we wanted to get it booked. Cosmic Rewind, opening summer 2022.
Everything's coming.
Everything is coming summer 2022.
Yep.
Lots of things are returning. I'm excited to do this new ride. I'm hoping we get an announcement for Tron, but I have a feeling that's 2023.
Yep.
So I think that's something that we'll do new this year. And the day we hear the announcement of the opening, we'll do everything in our power to book being there and be there on opening day for Cosmic Rewind, which I always look forward to those opening days. They're just an absolute blast. Cirque du Soleil, Drawn to Life in February. Will be new to us this year.
Yep.
We had done La Nuba prior to it closing down, which we loved. Are you excited for Cirque du Soleil and our Valentine's weekend getaway without the children?
Yeah, I really am. We're staying at Port Orleans.
Riverside.
Riverside. That'll be so fun.
Been a long time.
I got a surprise the other night that Kat and Michael are going to be there as well.
Yeah.
Of course, staying at Boardwalk.
Well, here we go. Yeah, we were looking because we're going to go Friday to Sunday, so I got to work some things around, see if my parents can watch the kids an extra night because Michael has requested that we stick around for Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah,
and it would be our first ever Super Bowl, I believe, at Disney. What is that? But then, we got to look at the next morning because we would need to wake up and go to Magic Kingdom and see the parade. And possibly see Tom Brady if they win again. That's what.
Well,
that's what we're looking on.
Completely mark out then, because I think I'm only marked out for work until like One.
All right. Well, we'll take a look at that again.
Okay.
It'd be very modified, of course, still, because we don't have full parades or anything back. Lisa asked, what were your predictions from 2021? Were they correct? Did like anything surprise us? I really don't know what our predictions were at that point.
Well, one was, I think, staying at a new resort that we haven't stayed at.
Yeah, which we didn't do this last year as far as Disney goes. So we were wrong on that prediction.
Okay.
That's our prediction every year.
Yeah.
The year prior, we fell into it in December of 2020 because we were booked at Coronado that first weekend in December, and we got upgraded to Contemporary. Yep. Otherwise, we would have missed out that year. Lisa, I'll be honest. I've gotten to a point where I don't make predictions because things are just so still in the constant state of change.
Yeah.
That's true. But a couple weeks ago, and we're not going beyond this simple thing. A couple weeks ago, if you had said, when do you predict that Disney will lift indoor mask mandates? It's completely different than what I would have said, or what I would say today.
Right.
Based on current data, information, Universal going back to indoor masks, things like that.
Right.
So if you said, honestly, if you were like, what month do you think Cosmic Rewind will open? Like, you know what? I don't even know I can make a prediction. I'm gonna go and say, honestly, I think it would be end of August. And that's about all I got. Because
what do they say? A day that ends in Y.
Yeah. Same with things like, I think things like probably Hoop-de-Doo in Spirit of Aloha have been moved slightly to the back burner in the past month.
Yeah.
I bet there probably could have been plans for those getting ready to come back. They could have been, auditioning and rehearsing, and they probably said, you know what, let's take a little bit of a step back. But at the same time, they're getting back to doing some big New Year's Eve events like in Epcot and attracting more crowds. We had Christmas week in this past week and all before New Year's, some parks getting back to kind of hitting their capacity for reservations. So it's really hard to tell. Marathon weekend's coming up. You've got stuff like MLK weekend, President's weekend. You've got, some of these, then it goes full-fledged into spring break. So I think Disney is moving along at a very comfortable pace as far as things are happening and reopening.
Right.
But I do think they may be on a few things like those live shows have potentially taken a step back.
Right.
So we'll kind of see maybe what happens. But yeah. I'm looking forward to 2022. I mean, we've got January, we've got February booked. We've got next Christmas booked. We'll start to look at some other options. I think you're going to start to see and hear a lot more from us on Universal, on, the way things that are kind of going.
Yep.
And as always, Main Street Magic community and the social is there for you guys to make recommendations. What do you want us to cover more? What topics do you want? What reviews do you want? What types of things do you guys want to see? Because that's the sole reason that we're here.
Right.
So,
yep.
Anything else you want to add for either 2021, 2022, 2030? I don't know.
I just would like to say thank you to all of our listeners. As always, we would not be here without you. We truly, truly appreciate you. And thank you for, hanging out with us still for all this time and this year. And I look forward to this next year.
Yeah.
And with y'all again.
Yeah. And I'll just, pretty much ditto all of that. It was a big year for us. It was a big change. We changed some things up at the first of the year, and we have just been so thankful for everybody.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I got a wonderful, I didn't even share it with you yet. I got a wonderful Facebook message from Tiana over across the pond this morning, who, was a listener and just, very thankful for, the info and all of that type of stuff. And that is the whole reason that we do this.
Yep.
It's, we love going to Disney. We love going to Universal. But for us, it's making sure that we can provide the info, the content, the tips, the advice, so that you guys can enjoy it. Because you know what? If we go and we have a bad weekend for some reason, that's okay.
Yep.
for us. We
right.
do not want you to go on your once a year, once a lifetime, once every couple years trip and have a bad time. So,
Yep.
we're always an open book. Magic at mainstmagic.com. You can always email us. You can go to mainstmagic.com. There's a contact form. That's another way to get in touch with us. Obviously, the Main Street Magic community on Facebook, at mainstmagic on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can always reach out to us. Just hit us up on any of those channels. If you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have ideas, we want to hear them.
Yep.
Because again, this whole show is driven by you guys. So
Yes.
we appreciate you very much. We hope everybody had a wonderful 2021.
Yes.
We hope that you have an even better 2022. As long as you're out there, maybe sending us some questions. It would also be wonderful if you subscribe, get those brand new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. And as always, please leave us a rating and review.
Because it helps our show grow.
That's all we've got. We'll see you real soon.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts. Main Street Magic's bringing it home for you.